Let's talk about something that seems simple on the surface, but holds immense psychological and emotional power: our insecurities. Every one of us carries them. They're the quiet shadows behind our smiles, the subtle doubts that whisper to us in moments of stillness. And while society encourages openness and radical transparency, there's a fine line between healthy vulnerability and unnecessary exposure. Not everything within you is meant to be public property. You see, your insecurities are not weaknesses. They're windows into your humanity. They're the raw, unfiltered truths that shape your character and your resilience. But when we share them carelessly, when we place them in the hands of people who haven't earned that level of trust, we risk giving others the ability to define us through our wounds. And once that happens, we start to lose control of our narrative. In psychology, there's something called impression management, the way we consciously or unconsciously control how others perceive us. It's not about deception. It's about discernment. You have every right to choose which parts of yourself you reveal and to whom. When we share our insecurities indiscriminately, we surrender that control. We give strangers, colleagues, or even casual friends the map to our most vulnerable places. And not everyone who smiles at you deserves to know where your soft spots lie. Think about it this way. Your insecurities are like a house under renovation. The structure is there, but it's still fragile. You wouldn't invite everyone off the street to walk through your unfinished home, would you? You'd wait until the walls were solid, until the dust settled, until it could be seen for what it truly is, not for the chaos in between. The same principle applies to your inner life. Heal privately, grow quietly, reveal selectively. Now, that doesn't mean you should bottle everything up or build emotional walls so high that no one can reach you. True strength isn't isolation. It's intelligent privacy. There's great wisdom in knowing who can hold your truth without using it against you. That might be a close friend, a mentor, a therapist, or a partner who has proven consistency through time and compassion. Trust should be earned, not granted. Philosophically speaking, when you share your insecurities too freely, you hand over a piece of your identity to be interpreted by others. You invite them to become co-authors of your self-image. And that's dangerous because people often respond to your insecurities not based on who you are, but on who they are. Their biases, their fears, their projections. Before you know it, their reactions begin to shape how you see yourself. What once was a private uncertainty becomes a public label. There's also a subtle psychological trap here. When you share your insecurities hoping for validation, you train your mind to seek external reassurance rather than internal resolution. It becomes a cycle. The more you share, the more dependent you become on the approval of others. But healing, real healing, happens in solitude. It happens when you confront your own mind without the noise of opinions or the pressure to be understood. So keep certain things sacred. Protect the parts of yourself that are still in progress. Let people see your strength, your effort, your growth, but not necessarily the blueprint of your pain. Not because you're hiding, but because you're honoring the sanctity of your own evolution. At the end of the day, it's not about building walls, it's about building wisdom. You don't owe everyone access to your private battles. Some chapters of your life are meant to be read only by you until you've turned the last page and found your peace. Money has an interesting way of revealing people's true intentions. It's one of the most personal aspects of our lives, yet one of the most casually discussed. We talk about careers, investments, and success stories, but the deeper details, how much we earn, what we owe, what we're planning financially, those should remain guarded, because the moment you open that vault, you don't just reveal numbers, you reveal power dynamics, vulnerabilities, and expectations that can reshape how others perceive you. You see, finances are not just figures on a spreadsheet. They're deeply psychological. They represent your independence, your discipline, and in many ways, your sense of control over your own life. When you share those details too freely, you invite external influence into something that should remain internally directed. people begin to make assumptions about your success, your stability, your worth. Some will admire you, others may envy you, and a few will measure themselves against you. In all these reactions, your financial truth becomes a mirror for other people's insecurities and ambitions. And once that happens, the purity of your goals can become distorted by the perceptions of others. Now, there's a deeper layer to this. From a psychological standpoint, money is tied to status, and status is tied to identity. When you share financial information, you unconsciously define your place in a hierarchy. You tell people how to categorize you before they've even had the chance to know you. Suddenly, you're not you anymore. You're a salary, a title, a number, and that changes the nature of your relationships. Some people will lean closer. Others will subtly step away. Either way, authenticity begins to fade. Philosophically, the issue goes even further. Sharing your financial details carelessly violates an essential principle of personal sovereignty, the idea that certain aspects of your life should remain under your sole authority. Your finances are a reflection of your effort, your values, and your long-term vision. They are, in essence, the manifestation of your choices. When you allow others to judge, compare, or comment on them, you're surrendering part of your autonomy. You're letting external voices weigh in on decisions that only you should govern. There's also a subtle danger in overexposing your financial plans, your investments, your strategies, your future ambitions. It might feel exciting to talk about what you're building, but remember, not everyone is cheering for you. Some are merely watching. And when your next step becomes public knowledge, you lose the quiet advantage that privacy provides. Your competitors, and sometimes even your friends, begin to anticipate your moves. The most effective people in history understood this truth deeply. Progress is safest when it's silent. There's another layer to this that's worth acknowledging: humility. Discussing money openly can unintentionally create emotional distance. Even if your intention isn't to boast, numbers carry emotional weight. To someone struggling, your disclosure might sound like arrogance. To someone thriving, it might sound like insecurity disguised as pride. Either way, the conversation shifts from connection to comparison, and comparison erodes authenticity faster than anything else. When we choose to keep our financial lives private, we preserve something sacred, our sense of inner equilibrium. We make room for relationships built on mutual respect, not material measurement. We give ourselves permission to grow quietly without the pressure of external validation. Privacy, in this sense, isn't secrecy, it's wisdom. It's an act of self-protection, not self-centeredness. So if you ever feel the urge to discuss your earnings or your plans in detail, pause and ask yourself, why am I sharing this? Is it for advice, connection, or recognition? If it's the latter, that's a sign you're giving away something that should remain yours. The most grounded people aren't those who flaunt what they have. They're the ones who don't need to. There's a subtle power in silence, especially when it comes to your ambitions. We live in an age that celebrates instant sharing. Every idea, every plan, every spark of inspiration is expected to be broadcast the moment it's conceived. Social media thrives on it. We've been conditioned to announce before we've even begun. But here's the truth. Not every dream should be spoken too soon. Some things lose their strength the moment they're exposed to the noise of the world. When you share your goals prematurely, you activate a strange psychological phenomenon. Your brain interprets that verbal expression as a form of completion. In other words, you get the satisfaction of achievement without the effort of actually achieving. It's deceptive, but very real. That fleeting sense of pride or validation tricks your mind into thinking progress has already been made, when in reality, nothing has changed. And that illusion can drain the very energy you need to act. Beyond psychology, there's also the philosophical aspect of sacred timing. Every goal has its own rhythm, its own incubation period. When you reveal your plans too early, you interrupt that process. You expose something delicate, something still forming, to the unpredictable reactions of others. Some people will doubt you. Others will question your ability or your worthiness to succeed. And even if they mean no harm, their skepticism can quietly seed self-doubt in your mind. Before long, you start negotiating with your own potential instead of pursuing it. There's also a social dynamic at play here. When you announce your ambitions, you invite opinions. And opinions, while abundant, can be heavy. Everyone will have advice. Everyone will have expectations. And soon your dream no longer feels like yours. It becomes a collective project shaped by voices that were never meant to influence it. You start adjusting your goals to fit their comfort, their logic, their approval. And in doing so, you dilute the very thing that made your vision unique. But when you hold your goals close, when you build quietly away from the spotlight, something remarkable happens. You enter what I call the sacred zone of momentum. In that space, your energy isn't scattered, it's focused. Your mind isn't seeking validation, it's seeking results. You're not performing progress, you're living it. And there's a deep, grounded satisfaction that comes from knowing you're moving forward while the world remains unaware. Now, this doesn't mean you must work in total isolation. Sharing your goals with one or two trusted individuals can be valuable, especially if they provide guidance, accountability, or perspective. The key is discernment, knowing who truly supports your growth versus who simply wants to observe it. Protect your dreams from the gaze of curiosity until they're strong enough to stand on their own. Think of a seed planted in the ground. You don't dig it up every few days to check if it's growing. You water it, you nurture it, and you let time do its work. The soil's darkness isn't a place of neglect, it's a place of transformation. The same is true for your goals. They need time in the unseen, away from exposure, to develop the strength they'll need once they face the light. There's also an element of spiritual discipline here. Keeping your goals private isn't about secrecy, it's about stewardship. It's an act of faith in your own ability to follow through. You don't need applause to move forward. You don't need permission to dream. The satisfaction of accomplishment comes not from who knows, but from what you become in the process. In a world that constantly urges us to share, to post, to announce, choosing silence becomes a form of rebellion and a mark of wisdom. The most powerful moves in life are often made quietly, away from attention, until they can no longer be ignored. Let's turn our attention to something deceptively simple, yet profoundly revealing: other people's secrets. We often underestimate the weight of information entrusted to us. A secret is more than just a piece of private knowledge. It is a fragment of someone else's identity, a reflection of trust, and a marker of intimacy. When someone chooses to share their vulnerability with you, they are placing part of themselves in your hands. How you handle that responsibility speaks volumes about your character, even more than what you choose to share about yourself. Psychologically, there's a subtle but powerful connection between trust and social bonds. When someone confides in you, they are extending a bridge of emotional reliance. They are saying, in essence, I believe you can hold this part of me safely. To betray that trust is not only a violation of their confidence, but a breach of the moral fabric that holds human relationships together. It sends a ripple through social networks. Once trust is broken, it is rarely fully restored. And the irony is, the person who shares a secret often suffers little harm if kept silent, but the one who betrays it loses credibility, integrity, and in many cases, self-respect. From a philosophical standpoint, consider the principle of stewardship. To hold a secret is to steward someone else's vulnerability, and stewardship requires restraint. It is a commitment to prioritizing someone else's dignity over your curiosity, your desire for attention, or your impulse to share. This is not about censorship or moral rigidity. It is about understanding that some knowledge comes with a responsibility far greater than the gratification of speech. Every secret you protect strengthens your moral agency. Every secret you betray diminishes it. There is also a psychological dimension to consider. Gossip and disclosure can create a fleeting sense of connection or power, but it comes at the cost of long-term trust. When we share what is not ours to share, we are essentially prioritizing our short-term satisfaction over enduring respect. People are astoundingly perceptive. They notice who keeps confidences and who cannot. Your reputation as someone trustworthy becomes a self-reinforcing asset. Conversely, when you reveal what was entrusted to you, you invite suspicion, doubt, and ultimately isolation. The consequences often extend beyond the immediate breach, affecting personal and professional relationships in ways that are difficult to repair. Moreover, handling others' secrets wisely cultivates emotional intelligence. It forces you to navigate your impulses, to tolerate uncertainty, and to manage the urge for social reinforcement. In doing so, you develop patience, empathy, and discernment, traits that are rare precisely because they require self-control in a world that rewards impulsivity. There is dignity and restraint, and it manifests most clearly when it is invisible, uncelebrated, yet profoundly impactful. Think of it in practical terms. Every time someone shares a confidential matter with you, you are handed a choice to honor or exploit. Honor strengthens your relationships and reinforces your integrity. Exploit diminishes your credibility and can erode trust irreparably. The lesson extends beyond personal relationships. It applies to professional settings, communities, and any space where social cohesion depends on reliability. Integrity is often measured not by public gestures, but by private conduct. How you behave when no one is watching is how your character is truly tested. Ultimately, protecting what isn't yours to share is about more than other people. It is about protecting the core of who you are. The act of safeguarding another's vulnerability strengthens your own moral center. It reminds you that some things are sacred not because they are forbidden, but because they are entrusted, delicate, and meaningful.